Hi everyone, it's Elizabeth here. So today I just want to share some thoughts regarding 5 signs that your work is eating you alive. I've been working in fitness and health coaching since 2006, and since 2012 I've had the opportunity to primarily work in a lot of the corporate fitness centers here in downtown Seattle. I've worked with a range of small businesses to the larger corporations. And it's really interesting where we're headed today, because I guess in terms of Western standards for work and labor practices, Americans generally tend to look up to the European cultures because they are more work-life balance than we are. However, we are kind of heading down a really interesting path where we are being worked at a really hard intensity, and either we're not getting paid as much, or companies are expecting us to do more with less. And this is causing a lot of problems in people's lives. Is that a lot of the people who are most unhappy in these work environments are actually the individuals who come from overseas, whether it would be from Europe or Australia or Africa. I've worked with a lot of different people who say that their culture is more laid back, or they have more work-life balance and things like that, and they just can't seem to get on the freight train to really work at this high intensity that's happening at work. So the thing is, a lot of people have really good intentions, and today, especially in the millennial generation, we are very closely niched our identities to our job, whether that would be for the amount of money that we make, or for our job title, or just for what we do and contribute to the world. A lot of that is really good in terms of people genuinely wanting to help out humanity. But what is going on today is that the work is becoming a priority, and life and family and home or personal relationships are starting to. And eventually, if people don't start to recognize the signs that their life or health or just balance in their life in general is starting to suffer, things are going to kind of start to go south for them. So I just want to share some thoughts on some common things that I have found by working with people, understanding their human behavior, understanding their stories, about 5 really important signs that your work is starting to take over your life, it's starting to suck your soul dry, and it's starting to eat you alive. So the first one is pretty basic and common. It's that your stress levels are going to increase. If you find that you're constantly stressed out, not only during the workday, but you're starting to take that stress home with you, that's a little bit of a problem. Now, some people can go to work and then leave and completely detach and go home and just spend time with their family or their loved ones. Other people aren't programmed that way. They're a little bit more emotionally invested in their job. And so if you're starting to notice that your stress levels are starting to seep from your work life into your personal life, that's a clear indicator that your sign or that your work is. The second sign is that you're starting to lose sleep. Now, if your work days are getting longer and your sleep cycle is getting shorter, that's going to be a problem long term. Short term, it might be okay, but long term it will be a problem. For other people, if you're starting to notice that you're lying in bed thinking about work or just everything that you have to do, this is a clear indication that you're starting to train your brain to work more in fight or flight mode rather than focus into the more rest and digest phase. So if that is an issue, a lot of people tend to want to just get the sleeping pill or just go on Ambien or something like that. The reality is, if your mind is working too much at night, that is a sign that you need to do some mind-brain training. That often comes in forms of meditation or certain types of guided meditations like progressive muscle relaxation, or just playing some form of white noise. Whenever your mind is racing and moving too much, the result of the problem is coming from your thoughts. It's not coming necessarily always from a physiological issue like having sleep apnea. So you have to really start to work from the mind first, and then if that doesn't self-correct itself, then you can go into other therapies and modalities. So the third sign that your work is starting to take over your life is that you start to increase your negative habits. So this means that you no longer want to eat healthier. You might find that you start increasing your alcoholic intake. You might start adopting unhealthy behaviors such as binge eating, or maybe you start to reach out to substances like marijuana or drugs to help you cope. And many people don't realize that their energy levels are suffering, so their caffeine intake is going to increase. Now, this kind of has a cyclical effect because generally the more caffeine that you drink, the more it's going to stimulate your nervous system, and you're going to have a harder time sleeping. So everything kind of is interconnected and interrelated to each other. So the fourth sign that your work is eating you alive, taking over your life, is that you are starting to lose social interests. So you are starting to lose that work-life balance. Either you're working longer hours or you're so tired and stressed out from work that you don't want to go and socialize with your friends. The reality is that socialization is a very important key component in our lives and our well-being. So it's really important that we maintain that human interaction, because the more that we spend time alone, we tend to get caught up in our thoughts, and generally we start to isolate ourselves, or we just don't feel like socializing. And this also plays into that cyclical effect of having negative habits. And the more you isolate yourself, the harder it is to go back out and have fun. Sometimes you just need to let loose and just enjoy the moment, seize the day, carpe diem, and stop worrying about work on Monday, or worrying about, how many emails you'll have on Monday morning. So the fifth sign that your work is eating you alive is that basically, I kind of briefly explained this, but work is now your priority and other areas of your life start to suffer. So maybe you start going to the gym less, or you're stopping spending quality time with your spouse or with your partner. So when the work starts to become a priority and everything in your life gets either put on the back burner or is kind of put in second place, you have to really start analyzing what is really beneficial for the long-term effects of your life. Now, sometimes we do have to sacrifice our time in the short term in order to gain more well-being or a better future. So for example, if you are an entrepreneur, the first year of running your business is going to be very stressful and very hectic. Most people don't really turn a profit in the first year, and they tend to work more than the income that they bring in. But maybe that sacrifice of 1 year will help lead you up to where you don't even have to work in the future, because you can hire a manager to do it. So sometimes we do have to sacrifice time and priorities in the short term in order to benefit the long term. However, most people tend to get caught up in work, and they don't ever rebalance themselves out after they start sacrificing their time or their energy in the short term. And people just constantly think that we are endless bouts of energetic beings, and to some degree yes, but to some degree no. Like, this is why rest and relaxation is so vital. Or when people are so stressed out at work, they just crave a beach vacation. It's because the body needs to recharge. Life is a series of ebbs and flows. If you look at the stock market, one day it's up, the next day it's down, but generally it's progressing over time. We can't just hold on to working at a high level at all times a day and just completely plateau and move through life at that same high intensity. We are not machines, and we are not trained. And working like that may be sustainable in your 20s because you're young, you're ambitious, and you have a lot of drive and energy to rise up the chains in your career. But the reality is, once things happen in your 30s and 40s, especially in your 50s, like, you can't really sustain that. So these are just some things to think about. Now, the reality is, almost every job today, or every industry, has its own political, bureaucratic garbage, in addition to a lot of toxic work environments or just toxic bosses. So you have to start to find some balance that works for you and really take priority to take care of your health and your life. Well, these are just some thoughts that I wanted to share, so let me know. Is your job working for you and your benefit of the long term? Is it making your life a toxic mess? So these are some things to think about. And if you'd like, please subscribe below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.